Welcome to Meldon Law and Friends. I'm Jeffrey Meldon, founder and CEO of Meldon Law, and we want to welcome you to the show. We have an incredible guest today, John Moran, who is one of the greatest photographers in the Southeast United States, and he's going to be talking about way back when Jeffrey Meldon and John Moran worked together at the Great Southern Music Hall, and all of the great artists that we were able to bring in. I'll tell you, the list is incredible. Bo Diddley, Jerry Lee Lewis, Richie Havens, Jimmy Buffett, Muddy Waters, Waylon Jennings, Chick Corea, Minnie Riperton, Greg Allman. We had some incredible performers at the Great Southern Music Hall. Any of you that were in Gainesville during the 1970s would certainly remember it. It used to be the Florida Theater on University Avenue, and we transformed it into a performing arts theater for 5 years, from 1974 to 1978. So we're going to be talking about the Great Southern Music Hall and the Matheson Museum in Gainesville, Florida, which is our historical museum for the city and the county, is holding a exhibit currently that's going to be running for another 6 months at the Matheson Museum. The whole main gallery at the Matheson Museum has photographs that were done by John Moran, and it's going to be really cool. As a matter of fact, this Friday, February 24th at 7 o'clock, all of the founders and members of the Great Southern Music Hall are going to be there live for a symposium that's going to be guided by Bill DeYoung, who is a well-known music writer and was the Gainesville Sun music editor for 20 years. So it's going to be a blast. Free food, free beer and wine, water, whatever you drink, it's going to be there. And if you drink whiskey only, you got to bring your own. But we got beer and wine there. So anyhow, it's going to be really a lot of fun. And wait till you hear John Moran tell his story, because John is since 1974, when he was the house photographer at the Great Southern, has become a very, very famous photographer, and he's going to tell you about how he's been invited to become a member of the University of Florida Hall of Fame in, I think it's the School of Journalism. So we're going to hear from John, and you'll really enjoy his discussion. The Gators been having a little bit of problems as far as basketball, and women's basketball, men's basketball. The women's gymnastic team, I think, is ranked number 2 in the country. They had a little bit of a upset the other day when they went to LSU. And for those of you that follow gymnastics, a 198, there's only a couple teams in the country that can get a 198. Michigan, Oklahoma, and apparently LSU, because LSU got their first 198 of the season and eked out by 1/8 of 1 point a victory over the Gator gymnastics team. And the meet was at LSU, and I never accuse anybody of having a home court advantage, but in this case I will. I think that had the Gators been competing at home, it would have been a different result. That's just my opinion. I'm not accusing anybody of being biased or fixing the judging. When I go to the gymnastic events, I always like to judge myself to see how close I would get to what the judges are doing. And I've gotten fairly good at it. So all I can say is the Gator gymnastic team is coming back to Gainesville in the confines of the O'Connell Center this coming Friday, and the meet is going to be really incredible. It's a huge thing. It's the final home meet of the season. The Gators are going to be fighting for position as the national champion. So you can see the Gators compete against Kentucky. We're giving away 2 free seats. All you have to do is go to our Facebook page, Meldon Law, and you can get 2 free tickets, and you will be able to see probably 7 or 8 future Olympians competing. The meet's going to be really well attended and exciting. So check them out. Here's another interesting deal. Wednesday, February 22nd, the Gator basketball team is playing the iconic Kentucky basketball team. For those of you that follow college basketball, University of Kentucky has been a top basketball program since the days of Adolph Rupp, probably 75 years ago. So we have an opportunity to see one of the best of the best of the best compete in Gainesville. And it happens to be Meldon Law Day. Everybody in the arena is going to get a Meldon Law shirt, a Meldon Law t-shirt with, it's actually a Gator shirt. We just have a very little discreet Meldon Law on the shirt because we want people to support the Gators and wear them. So if you're going to the game, make sure that it's going to be on every seat. You won't have trouble finding them. However, make sure you grab a t-shirt. They're really nice. I've been wearing mine for about a week now, getting ready for it. And I think you're going to really enjoy the whole presentation when Kentucky comes to town. So, oh, by the way, in the event you can't make the Kentucky game, but you still want a t-shirt, call the office and just tell them Jeffrey suggested that you call to get a free t-shirt, and we will make sure that we make arrangements for you to get a free t-shirt, just like everybody who's attending the game. The office number is 352-373-8000. You regular listeners know that we specialize in helping people put their lives back together after a serious accident. We're personal injury attorneys helping people who have been seriously injured through no fault of their own. So give us a call if you or a family member, a friend needs help. We pride ourselves in preparing the best presentations to the insurance carriers, and statistically we do really, really well compared to other law firms that you see on TV and on billboards and all around town. Meldon Law has been in business now for 52 years. 1971, we're in 2023. Actually, it'll be 52 years in November of 2023. So I'm taking poetic license when I say that we've been in business 52. It's actually 51 and a half. So the importance to you is that you have a seasoned, well-respected law firm on your side when you have the need. So just keep that in mind in the event. Everybody gets in a crash sometime during their life, and sometimes it's serious, and we hope it's not. But give us a call. We're here to help. Couple other things. We are giving away $19.71 for every free throw made by the Gators for the Kentucky game and all the basketball games, men and women. I think we're almost up to $8,000 or $9,000 that we've Meldon Law has donated to Alzheimer's program. That's where the money goes. My wife Patricia and I are on the sponsors locally and chair people, I think that's how you say it, for the Alzheimer's Association, and it's a cause that's near and dear to us. We want to support Alzheimer's research. We want to support people that have loved ones that have Alzheimer's, dementia, because dementia is a little different than Alzheimer's, but they're for most people, they seem to manifest themselves in a similar way. So we have decided to really help and try to make a difference in raising money for Alzheimer's. Last year we were able to raise $140,000, and if you're a member of a company and you want to put together a little company group supporting Alzheimer's, just call the office, and we'll make sure that we connect with you and include you in whatever is going on. So that's very, very important. A couple other things. Meldon Law, every Saturday at 10:30 for 20 years now. We host Law Talk Live. You can call in, ask a legal question. We'll help you. We'll figure out if we can solve the problem right there on the air. If not, we'll make sure we take care of it on Monday. And we also like to let everybody know what's going on in the community and the Gator world. So again, those are all things coming up. I haven't gotten to one of the most exciting things, and that is the Gator baseball and softball teams are both ranked in the top 3 in the country. And we've got 3 major league pitchers on the Gator baseball team who are going to just dazzle you. I think this year the Gators may wind up winning a national championship. So, of course, Meldon Law has tickets. As the official injury law firm partner of the Florida Gators, we get tickets to all the sporting events. And I'm a huge fan of the baseball team and softball, but particularly the baseball team because they got this incredible new stadium, the Condren Family Ballpark. And what a place. Wow. My wife Patricia and I go to the games. We bring Patricia's 90-year-old mother with us, and she used to play baseball as a young woman, so she understands the rules and gets very excited at the games. So if you go to a Gator baseball game, you'll probably see me hanging out there. It's really fun. They did a great job with the new ballpark, so come and enjoy it. So let's see, we got baseball tickets for University of South Florida on 2/22, 2 tickets. We've got tickets for Cincinnati game Friday, the 24th of February. And we have tickets for just about every sporting event that's going on at the university. Just go to Meldon Law Facebook page and you will be able to find whatever game you're interested in, whether it's gymnastics, women's basketball, men's basketball, softball, baseball, whatever it is, you'll find it there. So we want to thank everybody who has participated in going to Facebook, and a lot of folks have been winning tickets. I see people all over come up to me and say, I won your tickets. We had a great time. We brought the family to the game, and it was really cool. So make sure that you spread the word and check us out. Law Talk Live, we've got some really good topics and guests coming in for Law Talk Live, and much more is going on at Meldon Law. What I want to do is encourage everybody to check it out. And look, the bottom line is we have great teams here. They're a lot of fun. Let's support them. Whether you win a ticket or not, go to the games. You're going to have a fabulous time, and the team needs our support. We're getting ready to go to a break on Meldon Law, and Friends, and then we're going to come back in a few minutes, and you will get to meet our guest, John Moran.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured,
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
and our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Jeffrey, what are you doing?
Well, I'm joining the band, of course. Since Meldon Law is the official law firm partner of the Florida Gators, I want to help.
Dad, we're litigators. Let's stick to helping people in the courtroom.
Well, can we still hang out and jam a little bit? At Meldon Law, we won't back down.
I was going down a one-way street and a girl that was driving her car T-boned me on my scooter. I ended up going for an MRI and discovering that I had 2 herniated discs. Coming to Cary allowed me to not have to worry about what doctor I was going to see or what physical therapist I had to go to. They say, these are the people we trust. You're going to have a great experience there. And I honestly did each time.
Call Meldon Law. Your consultation is absolutely free.
I was driving behind a lady, and very suddenly she moved out of the way. There was a log laying in the road, and when I hit my brakes, I went on top of the log. I had 2 herniated discs. I just haven't been the same since. Jeffrey Meldon fought for me all the way. Him and his team really went there for me. Throughout the whole lawsuit, he made sure that my bills was paid. It was never no whenever I called him and asked him for something.
Call Meldon Law right now.
And I was in an accident. Someone ran a red light and hit me, and I was hurt. You don't know where to turn. Luckily, I called Jeffrey. These big insurance companies, they don't want you to win. They truly don't. But Jeffrey and his firm and the people that work here, they just really fight for you. You call the law offices of Jeffrey Meldon because you're going to need help, and they will help you.
Call Meldon Law right now.
Hey, Sammy, look who's there. Say hi.
Hey!
You again.
Meldon Law, Jeffrey speaking.
Jeffrey! Somebody else hit us here.
Here we go again. Welcome back to Meldon Law and Friends. And my good friend today is John Moran, who is a famous photographer. I'm going to take a minute and read a bio that I got, which is a press release. Okay, I know it's going to embarrass you. However, John Moran, before he was a celebrated nature photographer, and before he was an award-winning newspaper photographer, he was John Moran, teenage rock and roll photographer. In 1974, then 19 years old, John became the Great Southern Music Hall's first house photographer, serving in the role for 2 years. Dubbed Florida's photographer laureate by historian Gary Mormino, John is renowned for his extraordinary images of natural Florida. His portfolio of landscape and wildlife photography ranges from the Gulf to the Atlantic, and certainly being in the Gainesville area makes sense, with an emphasis on Florida waters, our springs, rivers, lakes, swamps, and coasts, and the creatures that inhabit them. A University of Florida graduate, John has been named Photographer of the Year for the Southeastern United States by the National Press Photographers Association. Following a 23-year career As a newspaper photographer and writer, John left the world of daily journalism in 2003 to concentrate full-time on photographing the best of natural Florida. His photography has appeared in numerous books and magazines, including National Geographic, Life, Time, Smithsonian, the New York Times Magazine, and on the cover of the National Audubon Society Field Guide to Florida. He is the author of Journal of Light, the visual diary of a Florida nature photographer. Welcome to the show, John. How you doing?
Jeffrey, I'm doing great. Thank you. It's a treat to be with you again, and I'm delighted to be on your podcast. And hello, Gainesville, and hello, world. And let the fun begin.
Now, I understand you have another accolade that recently
This
came
just
up
in.
with
This just in. Yeah,
hot off the press. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I was just informed by my friend. Actually, I got a call from the dean of the College of Journalism and Communications. I'm being inducted in April into the UF College of Journalism and Communications Hall of Fame. And,
wow!
50 years after I arrived in Gainesville, and that's really wonderful.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known John for almost 50 years.
49 years. Yeah.
And let's start by telling the story of how our lives intersected.
I love that story, Jeffrey. I love just walking down that memory lane with you. Would it be helpful for a bit of a setup for viewers, listeners who are not familiar with the Great Southern Music Hall?
I think so.
Okay, so
you want me to tell the story?
Yeah, set that stage, and I'll be happy to stroll across it. Yeah.
Okay. So between 1974 and 1978, the top concert venue in Gainesville was the Great Southern Music Hall, located inside the historic Florida Theater at 233 West University Avenue. Jeffrey Meldon and Jim Forsman purchased the venue and transferred it into a state-of-the-art concert hall spotlighting national artists of legendary stature and those that had cult followings and others that people just liked. The Matheson Museum, located in Gainesville, Florida on University Avenue, I think it's 513 East University Avenue, right next to the big library downtown, currently has an exhibit. It's called Return to Forever, Gainesville's Great Southern Music Hall, featuring the photography of John Moran. Meldon Law is sponsoring the show, and there's dozens of John's great photographs incorporated in the design of the show, which is extremely unique. We'll talk about that in a minute. On February 24th, John is going to join me along with Jim Forsman, a co-founder, and Albert Tibadji, who is a talent acquisition expert, along with Bill DeYoung, who is the former editor for 20 years of the entertainment editor for the Gainesville Sun magazine. And we're going to all share stories about the Great Southern Music Hall, and you're going to have an opportunity to ask questions as well. We want to make it interactive. And the actual piano played by Ray Charles at the Great Southern Music Hall is going to be in attendance. So that's pretty good. The event is sponsored in part by Visit Gainesville, Alachua County, Meldon Law, the Department of State, the Department of Cultural Affairs, the Florida Council of the Arts, and the state of Florida. So it is a big deal, and I really want to give accolades to everybody at the Matheson Museum, because they have done an incredible job of giving us a platform. Yeah. So, John, with that introduction,
all right. Thank you for that, Jeffrey.
Tell the story.
The stage is set. So Jeffrey, our paths intersected, as I recall, in June of 1974. I had been in Gainesville since the previous September of 1973. This is my 50th anniversary year now of being a Gainesville resident. And I was too young to go to Woodstock in the summer of 1969. I was only 14, but by the time I graduated from high school in 1973 and came to Gainesville, I was at heart a rock and roll photographer without a camera. I borrowed a camera on a couple of occasions to photograph concerts when I was in high school, but oh my God, the music of that era was just astonishing. And yeah, truly Gainesville was a magic place in a magic time. And there was, to borrow from the cover of Marty Gerard's wonderful book, there was music everywhere. And there were so many concerts on campus, and there were clubs around town. And then you and Jim Forsman opened the Great Southern, and I could feel the vibe from down on University Avenue. And I got to get a camera and go introduce myself to this guy, which is what I did. And so, as I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, but I walked into your office in June of '74 and said, "Excuse me, sir, you need me." And you hired me on the spot. And 2 nights later, I photographed Bo Diddley. And
wow.
So that was the first of a couple dozen shows I shot over the next year and a half or 2 years there. But the setup was that the performances ordinarily were 2 shows per night. And even before I became a photographer for the Alligator, the student newspaper, or the Gainesville Sun, which followed after I graduated, I was instantly shooting and delivering pictures on deadline. And on that very first night, photographing Bo Diddley, I photographed the first of his 2 performances that night. I shot 3 or 4 rolls of film. I was there for perhaps 20, 25 minutes, just bopping all over the place, front row center, up on stage, backstage, looking out towards the audience. And I rushed off to a nearby darkroom where I was working part-time. It was a commercial darkroom. I had after-hour access, processed those 3 or 4 rolls of film, and chose the one best picture from the evening, and quickly made a pair of 11 by 14 prints, black and white prints, in the wet darkroom, and mounted them on 16 by 20 inch map boards, and then raced back the 3 blocks over to the Great Southern and greeted Bo Diddley as he was leaving the stage, with these mounted prints and a Sharpie or marker, to ask for his autograph. The first print was for you and the second one was for me, but I remember Bo was like, "Dude, you just shot these pictures? That's so badass." Yeah. And he placed an order for some prints that night, but it was just so thrilling. It was so exciting to be making pictures that felt consequential somehow. And again, that point about, to be young in Gainesville or anywhere really in America, I mean, the music of that era just seemed to me, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, it just felt like it was at the tip of this cultural spear, this energetic wave that was just carrying us to a better tomorrow. I mean, the music just seemed like such an expression and affirmation of this positive energy. It just felt truly like music was a type of cultural medicine that was healing in the wake of the upheaval of the 60s, and I was just delighted to be a part of that story, with my camera.
John, why do you think there was so much music all over Gainesville at that time?
Well, there certainly was a market for it, with how many thousands of students there were. And interestingly, in an age long before the internet, of course, I mean, the music just permeated the culture, and perhaps thus it has always been. I mean, music certainly is a part of the Gainesville scene prior to our arrival and in the years since, but it just seemed like there was peak energy around it. We seem to have hit that sweet spot in terms of just the caliber of the national music that was coming through Gainesville to UF, and then with Albert and you booking these great shows at the Great Southern. Whatever it was, there was a unique and powerful combination of circumstances that just converged in the 70s in this town around music.
Well, I think there was, something in the water.
There was a lot of things in the water,
well, think about it. In the 60s, so Stephen Stills comes out of Gainesville. You've got Bernie Ledden, who helps found the Eagles, and then later Don Felder. Mm-hmm. Bo Diddley winds up living in the Gainesville area.
And wasn't there that rock and roll Hall of Fame photographer that you were his first attorney? What was that guy's name?
Tom Petty.
Oh, that guy, yeah.
So Tom Petty's here, and I had met him before I got my law license in Florida. Mm. And I met him in 1970, and we did some things together. Later on, when I became an attorney at the end of '71, we started representing Tom and the band Mudcrutch. Yeah. And they're all in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, too.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So that's 9 members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame from one fairly small college town.
Yeah. Hey, here's a small aside before I forget. I never met Tom Petty, by the way. I got my camera in March of '74, and he left, I think, on April 1st, 1974, to go west. And the point being that Tom played at the American Legion Hall, which is the site of the current Matheson Museum. So even though Tom did not perform at the Great Southern Music Hall, you were his attorney, and I've become friendly with his first wife, and he performed at the building that is the Matheson Museum, and is a part of the exhibit, in fact. Bill DeYoung has interviewed Petty on a number of occasions and writes about that in the sidebar portion of the exhibit that talks about just the broader history of Gainesville's musical roots. So there is a Petty component to the exhillet.
Yeah, and well, not only Tom Petty played there, but Stephen Stills played there, and Bernie Ledden and Felder, and I mean everybody.
Yeah.
This was the cool place to play, and whatever it was, Friday night, Saturday night.
Hey, I want to drop some names too. I remember as a freshman, as a UF freshman, I remember at Florida Gym, which was the big venue before the O'Connell Center was built. I remember seeing the Doobie Brothers and David Crosby and Graham Nash and Elton John and Yes and John Mayall's Blues Breakers and James Taylor, and just the list was it was amazing.
So Gainesville had the University of Florida bringing in entertainment. The Great Southern was bringing in entertainment, and there was at least 8 or 9 bars in town bringing in entertainment. Yeah. Actually, there were places like Dubs that were very important in the development of Tom Petty and Mudcrutch, because Dub allowed them to play 6 nights a week, probably 4 sets a night. Wow. And that's really important when you're a young band trying to get.
This reminds me of the story of how the Beatles honed their chops working in the strip joints in Hamburg. Where
the Star Club.
The Star Club, yes.
Where it was. I was there during 1967, and the Beatles were, all over the front of the club, and I got to see the Hollies there live.
Oh, very cool.
And it was, one of those magical moments. Getting back to you and the Great Southern Music Hall, and how it, what it occurred. What was it like as a 19-year-old University of Florida student getting the gig to be the house photographer and being a huge, rock and roll fan? What was it like for you?
This is deeply personal. It's hard to put in words because I was so high on Gainesville. I mean, this was my city on the hill when I arrived. And getting that gig with the Great Southern cemented the deal for me that my greatest professional aspiration in Gainesville was, I knew at some point they'd hand me a diploma and I'd get on with the rest of my life, but please, dear God, let me find a way where I can stay in this town forever. And I felt that, and I'm still here and I'm still grateful. By the way, before I forget, it's like we're focusing so much on the past in music. I just want to give a shout out to, there's a lot of great music that's still happening in this town. And you have been involved in sponsoring some wonderful events. And I went to a wonderful concert last week at the Heartwood Soundstage. And I was just reminded again that I need to get out more because there's still a lot of great music that's coming to this town.
So the Heartwood, by the way, this weekend is having a big festival, Friday, Saturday, and I think Sunday, at the Heartwood Soundstage. For those of you that haven't gone there yet, do it. It's they have a recording.
Yeah.
They have a room that's a recording studio that's par excellence, and they put about 125 seats in there so that it's like you're actually in a recording studio.
You are a recording studio, yeah.
And having the best acoustics possible in a small space where you are, never more than a few feet from the performer, and it's amazing.
And simultaneously, the inside performance is being shown on a big screen on the outdoor stage. And of course,
where they have a room for a couple thousand people.
Yes, and so it's a really fascinating hybrid blend of energy there, and that place has taken off. Dave Malash and Hoach and the gang are doing a great job down there at the South Main Station, across from Depot Park, at South Main and Depot Avenue, and it's just become a real cultural epicenter of Gainesville.
Yeah, and we love it there. It's a very innovative group of people that are trying to not only create a place to listen to music, see music, but they're putting it in restaurants and places. So it's it's actually a place where you can go have a great time whenever they're doing a musical event. And I was so surprised at the quality of the entertainment and the storytellers at the Tom Petty Festival last fall.
Yeah. Hey, let's drop some names, Jeffrey. What are some of the? I'm just looking at a list. You've got a list of the printout of the some of the acts that were there at the Great Southern.
So why don't you go and see if you can find some?
Okay.
Now, what do we have? 21 or 22 or 23?
I shot a couple dozen shows there at the Great Southern, plus others, at UF that are in the exhibit. But
now, so the exhibit, is all over the walls of the.
Good point. This is not. It's not a collection of framed photos.
Do a setup. Explain to them the evolution of how this happened.
Yeah. So. Jeffrey and I parted company professionally, so to speak, after a couple of years. But of course, we've bumped into each other over the years. And
well, you actually left us to go get a job at the Alligator.
Well, yeah. And then I got a girlfriend, and life got busy. And so we reconnected some years ago when I was doing sidewalk art festivals in Gainesville, peddling my nature photography, and we had a series of friendly conversations in which you gently harassed me, lovingly harassed me. John, when are we going to unlock those archives?
Wait. You dropped the bomb on me that besides the 4 or 5 photographs that I had, you said, Jeffrey, I have some negatives somewhere in my box.
Fair enough. And yes, there were a lot of, I didn't deliver all the photos that I had photographed at the time. And so when I finally went back to unearth the archive, by the way, I kept every roll of black and white film I ever shot as a student. We're talking, I estimated like 1,000 rolls of film a year over 4 years. I had 4,000 rolls of film. And as it turns out, they were all in sleeves. They were largely unmarked. And so it was quite a research job just to dive in and see what I had. But it just was pretty astonishing. And so, Jeffrey, you purchased a set of framed photographs of the performance photos. And that's a fine and handsome archival set of wall quality, gallery quality framed artwork. And we figured, well, there's got to be an exhibit there. But we commissioned Rick Kilby, the great designer, whom I had worked with previously on a couple of projects, including the Springs Eternal project exhibit with Rick Kilby and Leslie Gamble that debuted at the Natural History Museum here in Gainesville 10 years ago. And Rick is from Gainesville, lives in Orlando, world-class designer. He had a vision for what we could do with this. And when you walk into the big room at the Matheson, it's not a series of framed art photos on the wall. It is an astonishingly immersive display that just pulls you right in with floor-to-ceiling and wall-to-wall photos and graphics blended together. And with great writing by the incomparable Bill DeYoung, it sucks you in. It's a world-class small museum exhibit right here in our town.
Yeah.
And
so there's explain to them how it's like wallpaper.
Yeah. So there's a commercial print lab in Orlando that has a giant 10-foot wide printer. So it is like wallpaper. It's seamless graphics, and it's floor to ceiling, wall to wall, and it's all like one continuous piece with a professional crew that came in. It's really quite astonishing. So you walk in, and there's Bo Diddley, like 8 feet plus tall. It's just he's bigger than you, looming over the room. And it's just amazing. I'm just looking at the list here, just some of the others. And part of it too that was so great was just the mix of music, with rock and blues and country and jazz and fusion, and you were all over the place.
Well, yeah.
So here are some of the shows that I photographed. There's Bo Diddley and Jerry Lee Lewis and LaBelle and Jimmy Buffett and Richie Havens and Muddy Waters and Melissa Manchester and Waylon Jennings and Minnie Riperton and Eric Burden of Eric Burden and the Animals. And look, there's Souther Hillman and Fury. Chris Hillman was in the Byrds and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I mean, it was ridiculous. It's just the list went on and on. It's just like you were crushing it, man. It was amazing.
Well, what was kind of interesting is that I started booking the acts in the beginning, and I think I was I knew a lot about blues music, right? So I knew who Muddy Waters was, and Bo Diddley, and certainly Howlin' Wolf. These are people that I had known.
Well, given your own family's, your father's, background too, with clubbing in Cleveland.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So there were acts. My father, who was in the home building industry for 40 years. Prior to that, he had the largest jazz nightclub between New York and Chicago, located in Cleveland, Ohio, where we grew up. And it was a big room, probably 400 seats. And they brought in the finest jazz artists of the time. Nobody in jazz was too big to play the room. I mean,
and didn't your dad book Dave Brubeck, and you also brought Brubeck back to the Great Southern?
So
not to steal your punchline, but I love that story.
No. So Dave Brubeck started touring. This is in 1974. He's touring with his sons, Darius and Derek, I think.
Two generations of Brubeck, was it?
Two generations of Brubeck. And we, as I would frequently do, one of the perks of being, one of the impresarios there at the Great Southern is I got to have dinner with a lot of really neat musical artists. So I invited Dave and his sons to go across the street to a great restaurant called the Primrose Inn.
I love the Primrose, yeah.
So we're sitting there having dinner together, and I told him my dad was Harry Meldon, and he had played at my dad's club at least 3 times.
Wow.
So they knew each other well because they played for a week at a time. They'd play, I think, either Monday through Saturday or Tuesday through Saturday. So it wasn't like a get in and get out. It was a whole week gig. And I was talking to Dave, and I just told him how much I loved his music. For those of you who don't know who Dave Brubeck was, he was the most famous jazz artist of the time as far as selling records. He had a 33 release with a song called Time Out on it. And that song became famous all over the world, not just in the United States. And it was very interesting because he would be basically playing 2 jazz lines at the same time on the piano. And Dave Brubeck was, he and Leonard Bernstein, and they were in the same category as far as understanding music and jazz and things like that. Leonard Bernstein, of course, did West Side Story. And if you listen to Brubeck's music and what Bernstein was doing back then, there was a lot of similarity. Anyhow, I'm sitting there having dinner with Dave Brubeck and his sons, and I said, Dave, isn't this cool? I said, you played for my dad, and now you're coming and playing at the Great Southern with your kids. I said, this is 2 generations of Meldons booking 2 generations of Brubeck. And he loved that. He thought that was just really rich. Another person that my dad had booked in was Count Basie. And many of you may not have heard of Count Basie, but during the 30s, 40s, and 50s, he was huge. I mean, there was Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Tommy James, Glenn Miller, but I mean, he was right there at the top. And in 1974, he was still touring. Do you know, the other day, I was listening to the radio, I think.
I heard on the Wombat that the Count Basie Orchestra is still out there performing.
I was listeing to the Wombat. Those of you that haven't heard of the Wombat.
I got to know. I wanted to give a shout out. Totally,
is it 90.1?
It's 90.1 FM, or you can stream it anywhere in the world, of course, WMBT901.com. And it has just rocked my world. Last summer, when I was putting together this exhibit, working with Rick Kilby, I was dealing with some personal tragedy. And I'm a lifelong news junkie, NPR, and I just found it was. If the Wombat ever asked me to do a blurb, when the news of the world is bringing me down, I reach for the Wombat. And no, it's just an astonishing array of eclectic music. You can hear anything or everything from Frank Sinatra to Frank Zappa in the same set, but they just make it work. It's a crazy mashup of music. I love the Wombats.
Yeah, John and I, we did an interview with
Michael Clater. Yeah.
Founder and director of it, and
Wayne Irwin is I gather the founder and director, but his buddy Michael Clater is on staff with Arts and Medicine at Shands, and he curates a weekly program called Shift Change that is targeted towards the medical community in Gainesville, and they get a lot of call and requests from medical professionals on doing shift change. But Michael's a friend of my neighbor, as it turns out, and he had a wonderful interview with us that aired last week.
Yeah, and Wombat. So we're here to tell you, go check out Wombat, 90.1 FM, and it's
low power FM in Gainesville, but you can stream it. You just do a search
anywhere.
You can find it. Yeah. It's crazy excellent.
So anyhow, but Saturday morning I think it's jazz.
Yeah.
Sunday in the morning they have gospel on, and they have other kinds of things on, and you can hear all kinds of different music, but their normal format is eclectic.
Totally, yeah.
And it's
and somehow it works really well.
Yeah.
To my ear. Yeah.
And it's like the music of our lives, really. I mean, so let's see, were there any stories that you can think attached to any of these artists?
Jeffrey, this is why I take pictures. I'm a guy who used to have a memory. Now I have pictures, right? It's just like, it was the 70s. What's the saying that if you can remember the 70s, maybe you weren't really there? But I was just so focused visually on just getting in and getting the pictures. Honestly, I don't have any, interesting or charming or amusing anecdotes about personal connections.
Wait. Slow down. Tell me the story about how you photographed Chick Corea and Return to Forever, and you were up in the rafters and you were going everywhere.
Well, I mean, it's not even like a specific story, but there was something about having a Nikon in my hand when I was 19 years old. I just had this sense that I was shooting for the historical record, and I felt like it's almost like this shtick. It's like, excuse me, out of the way, a photographer is here, and I'm doing important work, And so I just was completely fearless and unabashed about just getting where I needed to be with my camera in order to make storytelling, high-impact photographs that would be shared with a wider audience, and realized that it was okay for me to do that because I wasn't just cutting in front of somebody. It's like, excuse me, but I'm working here, can't you see? And I just had a sense early on that I was creating pictures that were going to be part of a long-term record. And of course that led to a career in journalism, and after 23 years at the Gainesville Sun, when I finally retired, I had this deep sense of humility and realization that in a sense I had been the visual historian for Gainesville, and I had very likely seen more of the panorama of life of 9 counties in north central Florida than any person alive, just as an accidental happenstance of the nature of the job description itself, and I loved that job. It just, I was just, again, high in Gainesville, and my agenda was to go forth into the community and to create storytelling photographs and bring them back to share them with the community through the pages of the Gainesville Sun that reflected back on the community, to give people a sense of what I felt. And what I felt was this deep sense of, aren't we all just lucky to be part of this community? Warts and all, and we all had to know that every community has its issues, but where else would you rather be than in Gainesville? That was my thing.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. So when you were working for the Gainesville Sun for, what did you say,
23 years.
23 years. Were you covering everything?
Everything. I went with Steve Spurrier and the team out to New Orleans to photograph them winning their first national championship. I was making pictures of, on death row at Florida State Prison. I was photographing, tent revivals. I was everywhere with my cameras.
Now, were you writing anything in addition to the?
I was. I had a number of byline stories, and I had a monthly column, Eye on Nature, that with my personal musings as a nature photographer while I was still on staff for the Sun. But it was. I was a trained journalist. I was doing my thing, and having a camera was my tool. But I was a writer as well, and. I
want to plug your book for just a minute. The Visual Diary.
Oh, Journal of Light. Yeah.
The Journal of Light.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gifted of the book by John, and I'm very appreciative. Thank you. And I read it, and his writing is terrific. The Journal of Light, the visual diary of a Florida nature photographer. I would encourage everybody to go online and pick up a copy of it, because it's really a fascinating book. And John is being honored by the College of Journalism for his extraordinary career. And I think this book here is probably something that really gives a strong overview of what you've been doing.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jeffrey. It's been a beautiful ride. It really has. Yeah.
So, and what's interesting is that John, you came here in '73. I came here in '70. So for a great deal of our lives, our time has overlapped in many ways, because we've lived in Gainesville and experienced what Gainesville is like at the same time. And now, as I don't know if we're senior citizens yet. I think we're aspiring to become senior citizens, but we're not quite there yet.
It's kind of weird being around all these people our age who are old. You know, it's like, what's that about?
What's that about? No, we're just getting started. We're like kids in a candy store, and really, it's true. I think what I want to tell everybody is that this exhibit, I'm from Cleveland. I've been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at least 5 or 6 times. And I've seen top-notch professional work in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The work that Rick Kilby, Bill DeYoung did with the photography of John Moran and everything else that we put together is really world-class. I mean, this exhibit is not some pictures hung up on the wall like we thought maybe in the beginning.
Jeffrey, I like to think of the Return to Forever exhibit as a love letter to Gainesville from the 1970s, and thank you for bankrolling it. But it's a beautiful project.
But did you have any idea that it was going to turn out the way it did when we started?
No, I did not. But I will say that it was a bit of a trust fall, and given the history that I'd had of working both with Rick Kilby and Bill DeYoung, and I just knew that this was going to be special. And it exceeded my expectations. It was great. So the exhibit's up for the rest of the year, by the way. And the event that's happening at the Matheson on Friday, I've just found out, it's a ticketed event. The tickets are free. It's sold out at this point. There's a wait list online. But again, the exhibit will be up for the year. But for the people who are coming on Friday, in addition to the panel discussion that we're having, a piece of this that I'm especially looking forward to is the open mic facet of the program, where we know there are going to be people there who will share their stories. And in fact, at the opening event back in October, I loved the story of one of your former employees, one of the bartenders there, who told the story, and he was there with his wife, that when he first met his wife, it was when he was working one night, and 3 fine-looking young ladies walked in, and he leapt over the bar to greet them and to seat them, and a spark was set. And 40-some years they've been married now, and they wanted to come and to see the exhibit and to tell their story in the memory book that we have there. Tell us your story. And I was just so taken with that. There's something about the power of music at that time in our lives that serves as this kind of it's beyond a cultural glue. It's this emotional component, and it really underscores the point that our friend Michael Clater was making during that interview on the Wombat, how music really is medicine. And we can think of it in terms of being entertainment, but it's entertainment that really this is not a trivial thing. You know, it just gives such deep. It's art. It matters, and it matters deeply. And
I'll tell you, for me, wherever I go, I really enjoy having music, and I listen to classical opera, I rock and roll, R&B, blues. It doesn't matter. For me, it's, everything is magical, and that when you listen to some of the greatest performers, they're there at the top for a reason.
Yeah.
So. And John was reading over the list. I mean, there were artists that we had that, Bob Seger, Steppenwolf, Bonnie Raitt, John Prine, who passed recently. I mean, amazing. Randy Newman, Johnny Winter, Gamble Rogers, who was a Florida treasure, the Cheech and Chong, Steve Martin, Count Basie, we mentioned before, Roger McGuinn, Jimmy Cliff. We showed a Jimmy Cliff movie, The Harder They Fall, at the Great Southern. Not only were we bringing in live performers, but we actually had a screen from the Florida theater that they left us, and we started showing movies there. We had wrestling matches there, boxing matches. We were the first theater that brought in the Thriller in Manila. I think it was, anyhow, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, and it was the biggest thing in the Southern Bell, which was the telephone company, was right next door to the Great Southern Music Hall, and we literally ran a line from, this is in 1974 or 5, we ran this line from the telephone company over to the Great Southern and did a closed circuit presentation.
That was a very big deal. Yeah, it was.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now that was a big deal. I mean, we had the girls were dressed up like they were at the Copacabana, and they had back then you could smoke cigarettes in a theater, so they had cigar trays, and it was pretty cool. Anyhow, we could go on forever and ever. However, I really want to emphasize that everybody needs to go to the Matheson Museum, 513 East University Avenue, Gainesville, Florida, and check out this incredible display of photography featuring John Moran's photographs taken at the Great Southern Music Hall. It's going to be on for at least another 6 or 7 months. If you can make it Friday at 7, great. If not, please come and spend a little time there.
Yeah.
You'll enjoy.
And the Matheson hours are Wednesday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. So.
Correct. And it's great. And Caitlin, the director there, is terrific, and it's a very warm atmosphere. So come and join us. John Moran, any parting words?
Oh, I love this town. I love that time in my life, and I'm grateful that it shall live forever in a very real sense of the word. So thank you, my friend.
Well, thank you very much for being my partner in this venture. And this is going to end Meldon Law and Friends for this episode. And thank you very much for listening. And we'll be back next Tuesday at 4 p.m.